This podcast is for women who are already established, women who know they're capable, but can feel the gap between who they truly are and how they've been operating. This is a show about power, identity, and the exact shifts that elevate how you lead, decide, and sell without performing or chasing or molding. I'm Dr. Sonja Adzovic. This is I Have a Story for You. You're not being overlooked because you lack ability. You're being overlooked because the rules guiding your decisions were never designed for leadership. I'm going to tell you a cautionary tale, but unfortunately, it's one that you probably have heard before and may have even lived yourself. So, Sarah had graduated from the University of Toronto with a PhD in molecular biology. And afterwards, she got a job at a biotech company. Smart, competent, good at her job, Sarah was doing well. Heading into a department meeting about the launch of a new product one day, Sarah sat in the middle, she took notes, she paid attention, and she recognized potential problems with this product launch, and she saw some solutions to it. But she looked around the room and nobody was saying anything. Everybody was really excited. There were a lot of smiling faces. And she wondered, should I say something? Maybe I should. Nobody else seems to be worried. Either I'm, overreacting and there really isn't any problem, or this problem is so obvious that everybody just knows and they're just going to address it once this product launch begins. So she stayed quiet. She decided not to say anything. She didn't want to appear too much like she was showing off, and honestly, it might just be embarrassing if everybody already knows. And towards the end, the people leading the meeting mentioned that they were looking for a lead to take care of the whole product launch. And she thought, wow, I would love to apply for that. I would be so good at that. And maybe I should go introduce myself to that group and, get to know them. But then she hesitated again. I don't want to seem like I'm being too pushy. I don't want to embarrass myself. And there are all these really, big people in here. My boss's boss, my boss's boss's boss. And so, who am I to really go up and talk to them anyway? So she stayed quiet. And she thought, you know what? When I apply, my work will speak for itself anyway. Great. Time passed. Needless to say, Sarah didn't get the position. The problems she thought would happen happened. Nobody saw them except her. Feeling defeated, bitter, and overlooked, Sarah decided to leave the company, convinced that the culture was the problem. This is a common story that I've heard and seen with many women. And the reason for it is what I call the authority distortion problem. Now, many women unconsciously defer their authority in rooms where they should be shaping direction. And the reason for this is due to inherited assumptions. Now, why is this a problem? Because by giving away your authority, many women are held back from moving into those leadership roles, into those positions of power. Now, we're going to be talking about 3 inherited assumptions that lead to this authority distortion. Now, the first one is the idea, my work will speak for itself. The problem is that expertise and deep knowledge does not automatically translate to power or leadership roles because they represent fundamentally different skill sets. Deep knowledge allows someone to be an expert in a specific domain. This is seen as the doing, the technical. However, leadership roles require a completely different skill set. It revolves around shifting from the doing to achieving results through others. So this is a completely different skill set. Leadership roles require the ability to manage complexity, influence others, and make directional decisions under ambiguity and rapid change globally and in the marketplace. So many experts struggle to make this skill set shift, and that's why what was previously a strength can become a trap. So let's take, for example, an expert accountant. So you need a certain skill set, such as proficiency in certain accounting software. You need knowledge about tax regulations and the ability to make financial reports with zero mistakes. However, those skills, that deep knowledge, doesn't translate into the skills necessary to be a CFO or to start your own accounting business. In fact, many of the skills that made her a successful accountant can actually hinder her in a CFO or a CEO position. Therefore, the inherited assumption, my work will speak for itself, to get me into those leadership positions is wrong, because ultimately it's the wrong work, it's the wrong skill set. Now, the second inherited assumption has to do with hierarchical roles. We live in a hierarchical society. Our political systems, schools, academic institutions, higher academic institutions, companies are all organized hierarchically. So growing up, we quickly learned this. Our teachers are above us. The principal is above them, but definitely above us. Our parents and other adults are also above us. And we learn to look up from that lower position, which influences when we can or cannot speak. Who knows better? That is the real thing that we learn. Who knows better? So we quickly learn this. Those above us know better. And later on, as adults, we carry this on with us. We carry on the idea that who is hierarchically above us must know better. Therefore, in a company structure, many women will still assume that their manager, director, C-suite, where whoever is in a higher position than them in the company automatically knows better just because of their position. The result being that you are less likely to speak up during meetings run by someone in a higher position than you. This prevents you from asserting your own authority in rooms where you could be shaping direction. And remember that the definition of authority is the internal capacity to trust your own perceptions as enough to go on without needing external confirmation or validation. Now, what's interesting is that women are much more affected by this inherited assumption than men. While it does affect men to a certain degree, women are much more influenced by this authority distortion, that who is hierarchically above me knows better than me. And the reason for this is the third assumption. That's what we are going to go into next. And this is the internalized rules about when it is socially acceptable for me to speak. So very early on in childhood, women are conditioned into socially acceptable ways of acting by hearing certain phrases. Don't be too much. Don't be a know-it-all. Who are you to speak up? What do you know? Don't be too loud. Don't be too mean. You're being offensive. You're being a girl. You are a girl. We know. Never understood what that one means. You're being a show-off. It's tacky. It's embarrassing. You're embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing me. You're embarrassing your family. You're embarrassing your school. Lots of embarrassment, lots of shame all around. And this is one of the reasons that hierarchical structures affect women a lot more than they affect men. So take, for example, you're in a meeting, like the one Sarah was in, and you see a potential problem. Having authority in that room would demand that you treat your own perceptions as enough to go on to speak up. However, with authority distortion, you hedge. Am I allowed to speak up? I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm going to embarrass the speaker who's my boss's boss. Am I even allowed to say something? This isn't really the time. Who am I to say something? Maybe I'll just look stupid saying it. Maybe it's just so obvious and that's why nobody says it. I'll be seen as promoting myself. The result being that you missed out on a potential opportunity to position yourself as a leader in this scenario. This way, the conditioning that you learned in childhood is still operating to keep you socially acceptable, except that now it is costing you leadership and power that you want, deserve, and have earned. So the question is how to detect authority self-betrayal, to determine whether you are doing it and what can you actually do about it. So to determine if you are doing this, first ask yourself, when you know something, do you act upon it or do you ask your friends, your partner, or ChatGPT? Are you polling for opinions rather than acting? And if you're in a room where you have the opportunity to speak up, to offer a solution because you see a potential problem, because you have something to contribute, do you act and speak or do you hesitate? You stay quiet, defer to someone else who knows better. So if you are polling or hesitating to act on your own knowledge or perceptions, that's authority self-betrayal. Now, what can you do about it? So this starts with answering which inherited assumptions are largely running your operating system. So in this episode, we talked about 3 inherited assumptions. Which one is largely driving your decisions? So you can be making rational decisions, but from assumptions that no longer serve the outcome you want. So assumptions are the programming for your actions, for your operating system. What this means is that we will be forced to make the same patterns, the same decisions until we confront the assumptions and change the programming. So, for example, Sarah left the company to restart at another. It's not that the decision to leave was necessarily the wrong decision. It's that it came from the wrong assumption. And the thing is that the same thing is going to keep happening over and over until she fixes this pattern, until she fixes the inherited assumptions. So once she confronts the assumptions, she can choose intentionally, stay and position intentionally, or leave strategically. But regardless, not repeat the same patterns unintentionally. When you see clearly how things work, your decisions become more powerful. Your decisions actually move you in the direction you want to go rather than having you spin your wheels in place. If you're realizing you're operating on inherited assumptions, I write privately on how to dismantle them. The link is in the show notes.